When Marcus Johnson stepped between that gun and the 8-year-old boy, he had 3 seconds to make a choice that would either save a life or end his own. You won't believe what happened next. A gang leader became a hero in 3 minutes, changing 2 families forever. But let me show you how this incredible story of redemption really began. Marcus Johnson, 35 years old, was the kind of man mothers pulled their children away from on the street. His arms were covered in tattoos that told the story of 15 years in Chicago's most dangerous gang, the Southside Kings. His eyes held the hardness of someone who had seen too much violence, done too much damage, and lost too much hope. For over a decade, Marcus had been the enforcer for his crew, collecting debts and settling scores in the brutal world of gang warfare. He had 2 children of his own, Emily, 16, and Tyler, 12, but they hadn't spoken to him in 3 years. His ex-wife had moved them across the city after the last arrest, and Marcus couldn't blame her. He had chosen the streets over his family so many times that even he had lost count. Every morning, Marcus would look at the faded photo of Emily and Tyler that he kept in his wallet, the only thing the police never confiscated during his arrests. In the picture, they were laughing, Emily missing her front teeth and Tyler hugging a stuffed dinosaur. That was before everything went wrong, before Marcus became someone his own children were afraid of. The irony wasn't lost on him that he spent his days terrorizing other people's families while desperately missing his own. But Marcus had convinced himself it was too late for redemption, too late for second chances. He was wrong about that. But Marcus had no idea that in just 48 hours, everything would change forever. It was a humid Tuesday evening in July when fate intervened in the most unexpected way. The air was thick with the kind of heat that made tempers flare and bad decisions seem reasonable. Marcus was walking through Riverside Park, cutting through to meet his crew for what was supposed to be a routine intimidation job. The park was mostly empty, except for a few late joggers and an elderly man feeding pigeons on a bench. That's when Marcus heard the voices getting louder near the playground. 3 men in red bandanas, rival gang members from the North Side Serpents, were surrounding someone small. As Marcus got closer, he could see they weren't confronting another gang member. They were surrounding a little boy, maybe 8 years old, who was crying and trying to back away from them. The child was clearly lost, probably separated from his parents in the park. Marcus felt something twist in his stomach. This wasn't gang business. This was just cruelty for the sake of cruelty. One of the men had pulled out a knife and was waving it near the boy's face, laughing as the child sobbed in terror. For 15 years, Marcus had lived by one rule: mind your own business unless it affects your crew. But standing there, watching this terrified little boy who reminded him so much of Tyler at that age, something inside Marcus snapped. Not with anger, but with clarity. Little did Marcus know the person standing before him was about to change everything. What happened in the next few minutes will restore your faith in humanity. Without thinking, Marcus stepped out of the shadows and walked directly toward the 3 gang members. "Hey," he called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had commanded respect through fear for over a decade. The 3 men turned, recognizing Marcus immediately. Everyone in Chicago's gang world knew Marcus Johnson's reputation. "Stay out of this, Johnson," the one with the knife said. "This ain't King's business." Marcus looked down at the little boy, who was pressed against the playground equipment, tears streaming down his face. The child's eyes met his, and Marcus saw something that broke through years of hardened indifference: complete, helpless terror. "You're right," Marcus said calmly, never taking his eyes off the boy. "This ain't King's business. This is human business." He stepped closer, positioning himself between the knife and the child. "Walk away." The gang member with the knife laughed. "You going soft, Johnson? Since when do you care about some random kid?" But Marcus could hear the uncertainty in his voice. No one expected Marcus Johnson to play hero. "Since right now," Marcus replied, his hand moving slowly toward his waistband where everyone could see he was armed. "I said, walk away." The tension in the air was electric. 3 armed gang members facing off against one, with an innocent child caught in the middle. For a moment that felt like an eternity, nobody moved. Then, Marcus did something that shocked everyone, including himself. He reached behind him, gently took the boy's hand, and started walking toward the park entrance. "Come on, little man," he said softly. "Let's find your family." The 3 gang members could have shot him in the back. They could have followed. Instead, they stood there watching as one of Chicago's most feared gang leaders walked away from a fight to protect a child he'd never seen before. But what Marcus didn't know was that someone else had been watching the entire encounter. The truth about who they really were? Absolutely unbelievable. 3 days later, Marcus was sitting in his usual spot at Mickey's Diner when a woman approached his table. She was well-dressed, professional-looking, completely out of place in this neighborhood. Marcus tensed, thinking she might be police or a social worker. "Excuse me," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Are you Marcus Johnson?" When he nodded cautiously, she sat down across from him without being invited. "My name is Dr. Sarah Chen. I'm a pediatric surgeon at Chicago General Hospital." Marcus frowned. "Lady, I think you got the wrong guy. I ain't never been to no hospital." But Dr. Chen smiled, and Marcus could see tears forming in her eyes. "3 nights ago, you saved my son in Riverside Park," she said quietly. "His name is David. He's 8 years old, and he got separated from me while I was on a phone call about an emergency surgery." Marcus felt his world tilt. The little boy, the terrified child he'd protected, was this doctor's son. "How did you find me?" he asked. "David described you perfectly," Dr. Chen said. "But more importantly, he told me what you said to him as you walked him to safety." She pulled out her phone and played a voice recording. It was the little boy's voice. "The scary man with the pictures on his arms told me that sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, but that doesn't mean they're bad people. He said he had kids too, and he hoped someone would help them if they were scared." Marcus stared at the phone, not remembering saying those words. But hearing them in the child's innocent voice brought back the memory of walking with David, trying to calm him down, sharing more of himself than he had shared with anyone in years. When Marcus realized who he had actually helped, his hands started shaking. But the biggest shock was still coming. "Mr. Johnson," Dr. Chen said, reaching into her purse, "I've been following your story since that night. I know about your children, Emily and Tyler. I know about your situation." She placed a business card on the table. It wasn't for the hospital. It was for Second Chance Legal Services, criminal record expungement, and family reunification. "I have connections," Dr. Chen continued. "Good lawyers, social workers, counselors who specialize in helping people rebuild their lives and reconnect with their families. What you did for David, that wasn't the action of a man who's beyond saving. That was the action of a father who still has love to give." Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. But with hope came fear. "Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Dr. Chen smiled through her tears. "Because David hasn't stopped talking about the tattoo man who saved him. Because in 3 minutes, you showed my son that there are still good people in the world, even in the scariest places. Because everyone deserves a chance to be the person their children need them to be." What Dr. Chen offered next was beyond anything Marcus could have imagined. Their lives were about to change in ways neither could have dreamed possible. The program Dr. Chen connected Marcus with wasn't just about legal help. It was a complete life transformation system run by Second Chance Community Center. Within 2 weeks, Marcus was enrolled in counseling, job training, and a supervised visitation program that would eventually allow him to see Emily and Tyler again. At first, Marcus resisted. 15 years of gang life had taught him that accepting help was weakness, that showing vulnerability was dangerous. "I don't need charity," he told his counselor, Anderson, during their first meeting. "This isn't charity," Anderson replied calmly. "This is you taking responsibility for the father you want to become. Your children are watching, Marcus. What do you want them to see?" The question hit Marcus like a physical blow. What did he want Emily and Tyler to see? A man who was too proud to change, or a father who was willing to fight for the chance to love them properly? But just when Marcus was about to commit fully to the program, something happened that almost ruined everything. His old crew found out about the counseling sessions. Word spread that Marcus Johnson was going soft, talking to social workers and doctors. In gang culture, this was seen as betrayal, weakness, or worse, cooperation with authorities. Tommy Reeves, Marcus's former lieutenant, confronted him outside the community center. "You think you can just walk away from the Kings? You think 15 years means nothing?" Tommy had a gun, and Marcus could see other gang members watching from across the street. Marcus felt the old instincts kicking in, the urge to fight, to prove he was still the same hard man they remembered. For a moment, the progress of the past 3 weeks seemed to evaporate. But then Marcus heard something that changed everything. From inside the community center, he could hear children laughing in the after-school program. One of those laughs sounded just like Tyler's. "You're right," Marcus told Tommy, his hands raised peacefully. 15 years means everything. It means 15 years I can't get back with my kids. It means 15 years of being someone I'm ashamed of. And it means I ain't wasting one more day being that person. Tommy raised the gun, but Marcus didn't flinch. "Shoot me if you want," Marcus said quietly, "but I'm done running from the man I could be." Something in Marcus's voice, the calm certainty of someone who had finally found his path, made Tommy hesitate. After a long moment, he lowered the weapon. "You're dead to us, Johnson," he said. But as he walked away, Marcus felt more alive than he had in years. 6 months later, the transformation was complete in ways that seemed impossible. Marcus had not only completed the program, but had become a peer counselor himself, helping other former gang members transition to new lives. What happened next will bring tears to your eyes. The reunion Marcus never thought possible was about to happen. The phone call came on a Wednesday evening in January. Marcus was at the community center, helping with homework tutoring, when his counselor Anderson approached with a phone. "It's for you," he said, smiling in a way that made Marcus's heart race. "Dad?" The voice was older, more mature, but unmistakably Emily's. Marcus gripped the phone so tightly his knuckles went white. "Emily? Baby, is that really you?" Marcus's voice cracked as 15 months of supervised phone calls, family therapy sessions, and gradual trust building culminated in this moment. "Mom says we can see you this weekend," Emily said, and Marcus could hear the smile in her voice. "Tyler wants to show you his science project. And Dad, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. Dr. Chen told us about what you did for David and about everything you've been doing since." Marcus sank into a chair, overwhelmed. His children were proud of him. After everything he had done wrong, after all the years of fear and disappointment, they were giving him another chance. But the real shock came 3 days later, when Emily and Tyler walked into the community center for their first unsupervised visit. They weren't alone. Dr. Chen was with them, and she was holding David's hand. "Mr. Marcus!" David ran toward him, no longer the terrified child from the park, but a confident, happy 8-year-old. "Mom says you're why I'm safe, and you're why you get to see your kids again." In that moment, Marcus understood something profound. His act of protecting David hadn't just saved one child, it had saved his own relationship with his children. Sometimes, the person you save ends up saving you right back.
2 years later, Marcus Johnson stands before groups of at-risk youth as the director of intervention programs at Second Chance Community Center. Emily is in college studying social work, inspired by her father's transformation. Tyler, now 14, volunteers at the center every weekend. Dr. Chen's son David, now 10, still visits Marcus regularly. The doctor and the former gang leader have become unlikely friends, united by a moment that changed everything for both their families. The community that once feared Marcus Johnson now celebrates him as proof that redemption is possible for anyone willing to do the work. His story has been featured in newspapers and documentaries, inspiring other cities to create similar programs. But Marcus's greatest achievement isn't the awards or recognition. It's the fact that when Emily graduated high school as valedictorian, she ended her speech by saying, "I want to thank my dad, who taught me that it's never too late to become the person you're meant to be." The man who once spread fear now spreads hope. The hands that once carried weapons now carry children's drawings from the after-school program. The voice that once threatened now comforts and guides. Marcus's transformation reminds us that no one is beyond redemption, that a single moment of choosing love over fear can change not just one life, but generations. Sometimes the most broken people become the strongest healers because they understand both sides of pain and hope. Have you ever had a moment where you chose to do the right thing even when it was dangerous? Share your story in the comments below, because everyone deserves to know that change is possible, that second chances are real, and that sometimes the smallest act of courage can create the biggest transformation. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to believe in second chances today. Remember, you never know when your moment of choosing love over fear might save not just someone else's life, but your own future too.